Hello everyone, it's me again, Warwick Weston Wright, your annoyingly altruistic, sanctimonious git of a communist friend here. So I'm going to kind of quickly go over a kind of summary of my beliefs. So a lot of the beliefs I've actually kind of posted on YouTube over the past year, and I'm going to try and perhaps explain some of the things a bit more than I usually did. The subject of this post today, I'm going to call it Zen and the Art of Giving Up Without Giving Up. We're going to open up with this philosophy which I've written down, and forgive me, I'll be referring to my notes throughout this video. I've got written down here, a martyr's heart may be in the right place, but rather than giving one's life for what one believes, it is wiser to accept that one may be persecuted or killed because of the beliefs of evildoers. Clarification. It's far more effective not to give in to evil than it is to fight it. People who fight evil can often be manipulated by that which they are, their identity, tricking them into playing the devil's advocate and continuing the cycle of retaliation. Now, this opening kind of philosophy that I've just read out to you is my way of saying I'm giving up the fight, but I'm not really truly giving up the fight. I'm giving up, letting go, detaching from things that I was focused on, things of the fight, the good fight, which defined me, letting go, but holding on to my beliefs. And I'm kind of learning to realize that being able to let go like this is a very powerful tool, and it's much more effective for helping create a better world for us all. And also, further clarification, my notes here, I've got every action you take, everything you neglect to do, you must think, are you serving freedom or are you serving the emperor? Now, this rule applies to good people and bad people. In this post, I use the word emperor a lot. I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan, so when I use the word emperor, I'm talking about the bad guys, basically. So I'm never been a big fan of imperialism. I think it's actually quite a bad thing. Another little philosophy down here. True freedom is having an outlet for one's true nature without fear of castigation. This rule also applies to good people and bad people. But that's my personal, I'm not putting this forward as a fact or anything. It's just my personal opinion and what freedom means to me. And you've heard that term, that dodgy group of people that have a lot of control. Have you ever heard of the Freemasons? That's probably why they're called the Freemasons, because they have an outlet for their nature. But that's another subject for perhaps later on. There's another little philosophy. Let go of everything you are in order to be everything you can be. For without identity, there is no prejudice or war. Now this is a part of my give up philosophy, what I call my Zen and the Art of Giving Up Without Giving Up. Learning to give up one's identity is actually quite a difficult thing to do. But again, see, when people give up, sometimes they let go of their identity, but it becomes a prerequisite to taking on a new identity, which is an evil identity. A bit like Star Wars of Anakin becoming Darth Vader. But this is different because when a person gives up, you have to give up what you're focusing on, what was defining you of the fight, but at the same time holding on to correct beliefs, and it will empower a person to help make the world a better place. And this is probably what I've learned. One reason why I'm making this post is for a long time, I always knew deep down in my heart, if I could truly learn to let go, truly learn to give up, that I'd be close to enlightenment, I'd be at peace with myself. I always knew that, but I could never do it. Every time I focused on something, every time I wanted to fight for something or spoke out against something, I just knew that I was being a good person, I was doing the right thing, but not in the most efficient way, and I knew that, I sensed it. And I'm finally learning to let go now, and it's starting to make me feel at peace with myself. So this post is a lot about explaining to you guys how to give up without actually giving up, to actually empower good people to have the greatest good effect on our society with the least amount of effort and in the most peaceful way, and in a way which is probably more correct than the way you may be doing it now. So if you're one of these type of people that's defined by the good fight, then if it's defined you, it's probably not as good a thing as you think. And this is what I'm trying to convince you with this post. I'm going to go further down my notes now. Okay, there's the next one. A little philosophy that I have. I'm not going to say much about this. Start as you mean to continue, because you'll most likely continue as you start. This philosophy is mostly about relationships. You should always start as you mean to continue. I've noticed a lot of I've never been very talented with the fairer sex in my life, and one of the reasons why I believe is because I don't understand or accept common courtship behaviours. I actually don't like them. The most common courtship behaviour seems to be based on a power struggle. Man being a bit egotistical, perhaps a bit pushy, a bit prideful, and the average woman saying yes and meaning no, that kind of stuff. Power struggle, it's not good. It's not just conjugal relationship, but relationships in general. And it could be any type of relationship. It could be a work relationship or whatever. So that's just a little tidbit of advice there for you. A little philosophy, getting why they're young. We all know that philosophy. I just want to point out that it applies to bad people and good people as well. But I suppose most people know that. After I've actually finished this post and uploaded to YouTube, I'll upload some text, which is about what I was talking about, just for your contemplation. There's another one. Just as a person's beliefs and nature go hand in hand, a person's nature is also a reflection of their true beliefs. Clarification. There's no such thing as acting out of character. Now, this philosophy is a bit harsh, but this philosophy isn't really so much... The purpose of this philosophy, the context of this philosophy that I put forward is really to do with a belief which will expedite the process of a person being able to know themselves. Because when it comes to judging other people, this is probably not a good philosophy. When it comes to judging other people, you need to understand that people aren't perfect and, not really be judgmental. But for the purpose of self-realization, for knowing yourself, this is a fantastic philosophy. As a matter of fact, down below in my notes I've got said, when judging others, you must understand that no one is perfect. But when judging yourself, you must believe that there's no such thing as acting out of character. So remember that this philosophy is good to help you know yourself. There's another little philosophy. The mind is indeed powerful, but beliefs are indomitable. It's something I believe very strongly. And if you keep your beliefs consistent and your faith strong, your mind will align itself with your beliefs. I spend a lot of time exploring the power of the mind, and it's a very fascinating subject, and there's a lot to learn with exploring the power of the mind. But when I discovered the power of beliefs, I now explore the power of beliefs and realize it's much more powerful. And when I say consistent beliefs, I mean you can't believe, like for example, Christians believe, a lot of Christians say, if you ask a lot of Christians, say, is it good to be a doormat? They'll say no, but at the same time they model themselves on a person that died for other people's sins. Things like that, contradictions. Or a person might say, you shouldn't be possessive over your spouse, but then they'll fall out with someone because they had nookie with their partner. You get what I'm coming from? Or you might be a type of person where you don't believe in the death penalty, but when someone killed your brother, all of a sudden you think it's a good idea. So this is what I mean by consistent belief. Don't accept any system of beliefs which is conflicting with another one of your beliefs. This is really important, and it doesn't take very long to evolve a system of consistent beliefs. And if you evolve consistent beliefs, I've discovered that there are only two systems of belief which are absolutely consistent. One is good and one is evil. I'll go on later on to explain what my definition of good and evil is, or my understanding of God and the devil, that kind of stuff. Because though I believe in God, I'm not actually religious. I don't have any loyalty to any religion at all. Anyway, and as it goes on here, I've got a couple of notes. This is someone taught me this once. What the conscious doesn't know, the conscious can't resist, but your nature will resist without effort. Clarification. Though the best control is self-control, with correct, consistent beliefs and strong faith, there will be no need for self-control. So the whole idea is, if you really purify your nature and beliefs and your strength in your beliefs, you won't be tempted to do bad things anyway, so you don't have to control yourself. Of course, no one's perfect, so aspects of self-control are always necessary, but you always try to remember that this philosophy that I was giving, it's a very absolute philosophy, and but remember, you're human, but try to follow it as best you can. This is another thing here I've written down about the nature of evil, what I've noticed over the years. Subversive manipulation is the devil's preferred tool. Clarification. Using all aspects of the environment and brothers in arms, evildoers will trick people into taking on incorrect beliefs that facilitate control and distract from beliefs that do otherwise. This is a very good generalization of the nature of evil. It's actually quite accurate as well, you'll find. So I'll go into my notes here. People who don't know themselves well are very easy to manipulate and make terrible parents or leaders. Clarification. If the definition of sentient is self-aware, then those easy to manipulate are just very intelligent animals and normally serve the emperor. There are two, and this is a continuation to explain that further. This is me being cynical. It's my little cynical beliefs. There are two types of people in this world, free thinkers and intelligent animals that readily put their life on the line to serve the emperor. Me being cynical. There's a good little philosophy. Don't waste your time preaching to the choir. This rule applies to both. Sometimes, when I spread a philosophy about a person's beliefs and a person's nature going hand in hand, I found it to be the most threatening belief I've ever spread that threatens the keyholder society or corrupt keyholder society. It really threatens them. They really go out of their way to distract people from this belief. And I find that if you spread this belief to a person about beliefs in nature, if they argue against it, you're most likely preaching to the choir, and it's probably not worth it. And it's not just like with good people and evil people. Sometimes it'd be, recently I responded to someone's post on Facebook who has like a kind of a mental disorder, and I said to this person, a person's beliefs and a person's nature can go hand in hand. You take on this belief that can cure your disorder. Your faith just has to be strong. And this person replied back and said it's not that simple. The reply, it's not that simple, means that person isn't ready to change. Preaching to the choir. This is another example of preaching to the choir. It can be trying to help people, not just to do with good and evil, or trying to influence people down the right way. When you're trying to influence people to be good or use these beliefs to like cure a mental disorder or whatever, it's like, for example, if a person's got an eating disorder and they're fat, you say, well, take on the belief that you're never so busy that you can't find time to not eat, because they blame their lifestyle, for example. They respond badly to that. It means they're not ready to change yet. That's all it means. So the best way to do it is, if you're preaching to the choir, if you think a person's a member of the choir and you're preaching to them, don't not preach them at all. Tell them your point of view, and as soon as you realise that the choir, stop, because it's still, you haven't wasted your time telling them. You're wasting your time telling them over and over again. Just tell them once, plant the seed and leave, and that's it. When they're ready to change, they'll remember that. As a matter of fact, what I tend to do is, when I spread this philosophy in a kind of a healing context, is that I say, look, if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. I just want you to promise me you remember what I said. I'm not asking you to believe it. And then tell them that philosophy, and then at least they remember it. Okay. And here's another one for you. Truth is truth, no matter whose mouth it comes from. Clarification. Don't be distracted from good ideology by slanderous remarks about the parties that spread truth. This is obviously, I'm sure a lot of people understand this totally. Pot called the kettle black, the old philosophy. When a person spreads a truth like what I spread, like a person's beliefs in nature go hand in hand, the standard procedure is to slander the person or party that's spreading that truth. Remember it's standard procedure. They always do that. It's a rule. I notice evil people, they can't resist the lure of fighting against such things. They're like dragons. They can't resist your lure. Okay, this is an interesting philosophy, and this is kind of politically motivated, and I'll explain the politics behind it in a minute. The best time to improve an environment is when the balance of power shifts. Clarification. Only correct beliefs can stop the destructive cycles. The reason why I'm saying this at the moment, I've noticed in the world the balance of power is shifting from the USA to Russia. And, as you know from my post, being a commie, I'm a touch on the pro-Russian side, but I'm not as pro-Russian as you think I am. So I'm kind of pleased that the balance of power is shifting towards Russia. But if you kind of go back through history and the history of empires, you had Genghis Khan's empire, then the power shifted and it evolved into the Ottoman Empire. Then the power shifted again and it became the Tsarist Russian Empire. And in the West, you had the Roman Empire, and the power shifted and it became the British Empire, and then the power shifted and it became the American Empire. And now you've got two empires left, the American Empire and the Russian Empire. And the thing I'm trying to explain to this is that when the balance of power shifts, people tend to have hope and they think something great's going to happen. But Karl Marx wrote about something called full proportional representation in government, and explains what full proportional representation is, not to mistake it for semi-proportional representation. Semi-proportional representation is what they have in England, is what they have in the United States and most countries in the world. What full proportional representation means, it's a two-way movement of power. It takes about 3 times the amount of people in politics to make it work. But the idea of full proportional representation is people that aren't even in politics, ordinary everyday civilians, can make moves of no confidence and get anyone out of power before the end of their administration. And they have full proportional representation in politics and the judiciary system. And what it happens is, I quote something that the famous martial artist Steven Seagal once said: all first world countries have a phenomenon known as where people are above and below the law. Now, what happens is full proportional representation is a genuine, practical and proven method that prevents corruption from existing at the furthest extreme. So full proportional representation doesn't get rid of corruption completely, but it prevents it from existing at the extremes where people can be above or below the law. Now, Russia doesn't have full proportional representation. And this worries me, because though I'm pleased, in the here and now, I do genuinely believe that Russia's not militarily aggressive, and I think they are peace bringers, and they're into fair trade and that kind of stuff. But when the power shifts, if the Russians don't fight for full proportional representation, Russia will just become the next empire, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that happen. People are very often blinded by their identity. They think they've got all this faith and confidence. Putin's a good person. Russia's great. This, that. And people need to understand, and this is addressing the Russians particularly, don't be blinded by your identity as a Russian. Don't be blinded by your patriotism. Don't be blinded by your love for Putin. Remember, Putin is ex-KGB. He's above the law. So he's the last person that's going to bring in full proportional representation. Because with full proportional representation, KGB can no longer be above the law. He would lose all his power, and the mafia wouldn't be able to exist. So remember, that's very, very important. You need to fight for that. When the next leader gets in power in Russia, the Russians have really got to fight for that, because if they don't do it, it will become the next empire. As a matter of fact, in Russia at the moment, they never used to sell genetically modified foods, and they still don't produce them, but they've allowed them to be imported into the country now. And that's actually quite dodgy, because it makes people docile and easy to control. But kind of going off the subject there. But the reason why I'm saying this about, at the moment, the best time to fight for a better world, and fight in the way that I'm encouraging you to fight, is to actually give up, but without giving up. And I'll explain that a bit further towards the end of the post, because the idea is to fight in a more passive type of way, and basically, because when that power is shifting, that's when there is really genuine and true hope, and it's the most important time to do it is now, because the power of balance is shifting, and it is the most important time. So remember from history how one empire evolves into another. But anyway, we're going to go on. So I'm going to just repeat that philosophy once again, so it sinks in. The best time to improve an environment is when the balance of power shifts. Only correct beliefs can stop the destructive cycles. Okay, I'm going to go on to some of my beliefs now. The most effective handle of control is beliefs. Contemplate every belief you spread and its effect on society. Contemplate every belief you take on and its effect on who and what you are. So that doesn't really need much explanation. Another little thing, my definition of evil is insidious. Clarification: the definition of insidious being slow and subtle, but with harmful effects. As the old saying goes, give them an inch. So remember that. So people probably believe that. That's actually quite important to understand. And this is one of my personal beliefs, but I'm sure anyone with common sense will understand this belief and believe in it. Have reverence for the sanctity of the mutual symbiont circle. Clarification: while we are all sentient beings, it is far wiser to be we-aware rather than just self-aware. We're all connected. Evil people only enforce parasitic symbiont relationships. Now, earlier in the post, I said I was going to explain what my definition of good and evil is, and what my definition of God and devil is. And here it is. My earthly definition of good and evil is social and antisocial behavior, respectively. Clarification. We need to start treating each other better, not just on a personal basis, but on a group and political basis. The reason why I say that as well, because because the balance of power is shifting. This goes to all people all around the world. There's too many people in the world which vote selfishly. They vote selfishly. They have no respect for the symbiont circle. People that work vote for leaders that say they're going to give unemployed people a hard time. People unemployed vote for people that, they give them a good time, and perhaps, people pay too much taxes to support them while they're not working, for example. They're not respecting the balance. Most people that work, they want to not pay unemployed people anything, but at the same time, they don't want to get burgled. You've got to choose one. Remember that. It's very important. You have to have that balance with the mutual symbiont circle. And also going into politics and full proportional representation is that countries which don't have full proportional representation, which is almost all of them, the so-called democratic system of voting, believe it or not, is an imperial practice of control and keeping the cycle going. Because when you have a system that doesn't have full proportional representation, absolute levels of being above the law and below the law and corruption will exist. It's guaranteed every time. The whole purpose of semi-proportional representation is to facilitate that. You must never forget that. People that vote are actually idiots because they're voting and hoping that one day a leader's going to get in control and things are going to be hunky-dory. And without full proportional representation, I guarantee that's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's never happened in history. I talk to you people now that are watching this video. Do you remember ever voting for someone and they mysteriously changed the world into a better place? Of course they don't. So remember, lack of full proportional representation is designed for that. And the vote count is what the government use to see if they lose. When the vote count goes down on how many people vote, it means that the government is losing control. People are starting to give up. And it's imperial practice. Another imperial practice is, say, for example, what's going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip. Wars have been going on in that area since the days of Christ for thousands of years. And what people don't realize that the Gaza Strip is really a place of imperial practice, a place where dodgy people can practice imperial wisdom, the wisdom and the knowledge of how to manipulate people and to get the cycle of retaliation to repeat itself endlessly. Same in Northern Ireland. It's imperial practice. They make actual politics. And what happens every now and then, they start to lose control and they'll make some fancy moves and manipulation to change the identities of people to make it look like it's a new war and the old war was solved when it actually isn't. So this is my political beliefs about countries which don't have full proportional representation. Now, there are some countries like Norway and quite a lot of countries in the European Union that have full proportional representation. And those countries like Germany, Holland, Belgium, Norway, in those countries, no one is above the law or below the law. There's still corruption that exists in those countries, yes, but no one is above or below the law. So the full proportional representation is proven to work. It does actually work. So remember, voting is just a crock of crap. It's just an imperial practice. That's all it is. And unless your country has full proportional representation, don't even bother voting. And the secret is, and because see, the people with imperial wisdom understand that when people have had enough, when you've manipulated them enough, after endless wars, they do eventually give up. And it's when they give up that they start to lose control. And this is really the purpose of this post. I'm trying to teach you how to give up, but without giving up. And it's a bit hard to explain. But maybe at the end of this post you won't really understand it, but what I'm really asking you is remember what I've said in the post, and hopefully maybe one day the penny will drop and you'll understand what I mean by give up without giving up. But the only way I can explain it with the best words is to say give up, stop identifying yourself by the fight, let it not identify what you are, give up but hold on to correct consistent beliefs, and things will start to happen naturally. So anyway, that's I'll go on to read a bit more notes. There's another little philosophy for dependence is a prerequisite to control. That's kind of obvious. It says also for here some addendum notes about the dependence being a prerequisite to control. For us to be the best we can be, we have to depend on each other to work as a team. But be wary of those who increase degrees of dependence without a very good reason. Take sharp discernment to know who to trust or depend on. Lack of identity coupled with strong, consistent beliefs will give you this discernment. So what I'm saying there is, first of all, when dodgy people want to control, and the control is a bad thing, they will always try to increase degrees of dependence so they can control you even more. So whenever a person increases a degree of dependence without a very, very good reason, they're normally very dodgy people. And this is something to really, really watch out for when people are dodgy. But of course, no one is truly independent. We live in a world, where, you might think you're independent if you go out, you do your work, you do your shopping. When you do your shopping, you rely on someone to catch the animal and put them in a canned goods. So we all depend on each other. We can't make a big rocket to go out of space. The one person company, they have to have a team of people that do it. So obviously we do have to depend on each other. But so this is why making the world a better place, discernment is extremely important. A good judge of character to know who to trust or who to depend on. And these are good rules of thumb is watch out for people that increase dependence without a good reason, because they're probably not trustworthy. And so long as you lack identity, your judge of character will be good. If you have strong, consistent beliefs, your judge of character will be good, and you'll know who to trust. And I'm going to go into my usual closing statement, as I say and repeating a lot of my things, because I think it's a belief which should be spread. A person's beliefs and a person's nature go hand in hand, as do a person's nature and will. But most importantly, the beliefs, nature and will of the collective generate the very reality in which we all live. Only correct beliefs can set us free. So I'm going to close with that, people. Thank you very, very much for listening to my post. I hope you do kind of understand where I'm coming from when I say give up without actually giving up. So I'm going to just read the top philosophy that I read to you in the opening poem, just so you can understand what I'm trying to say with give up, but without giving up. A martyr's heart may be in the right place, but rather than giving one's life for what one believes, it is wiser to accept that one may be persecuted or killed because of the beliefs of evildoers. So that's what I'm saying by give up, but without giving up. So in other words, I'm saying fight the good fight, but don't fight it directly. Fight it by not giving into it. Clarification: it is far more effective to not give in to evil than it is to fight it. People who fight evil can often be manipulated by that which they are, their identity, tricking them into playing devil's advocate and continuing the cycle of retaliation. It's like when a person joins the army, they genuinely believe that the people they're killing are evil, and they're probably not. You have to use your common sense. If your country is invading another country, that's not defense. That's not putting your life on the line for what you believe in. That's killing other people in the name of political ideology. So little things like that, you've got to use your common sense sometimes. And sometimes, I'm not saying be completely passive in the good fight. Sometimes just saying things like what I just said to you. You say to another person that's thinking of joining the army, well, doesn't England invade other countries? You sure you want to do that? You sure that regime change is a good excuse to kill people? You sure the greater good is a good reason to kill people? What, preemptive strike? You think if we don't kill them, they're going to kill us first? Do you think that's a good idea to fight other people? What's this business? What, shorten the war by 5 years, kill countless lives? Wasn't the war more or less over when we dropped the bombs on Japan? You got to just talk common sense into people, and hopefully they listen. But anyway, I'm going to close now. Thanks everyone. This is my post. I will say goodbye and God bless.